Hi everyone, this is GY8627. A few days ago, I posted a particle effects about Chinese mountains, and today we are going to talk about how do I realize that particle effects. And in total, we don't have much operators, and you can replace the picture add the movie file in, select your picture from your local storage, add the feed top after it. To make it a square, so I use 1000 plus 1000 and change the fit mode to fit outside. Then we add the particle GPU right after it. It's on the toolbar on the left. So we choose palette, then we choose, if we don't have that button, you just press that to make it a display. Then we choose tools and look for particle GPU. We drag it in our windows. Then it's here. We have this cube because that's the boundary display. We turn it off. Let's look at particle GPU. The first input is the particle source. Second is particle source color. So we use this picture as the particle source color. Now we need to give it a particle source. It's a very simple method. We use top, we add a ramp, then we replicate the ramp, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Then we change the second one to vertical. Then we add a reorder after these two. Connect these two to reorder. Then we change the input second one to input 2, then the third one to 0. Now it looks like a ramp from green color to red color, which represents the particles in a 3D spaces. RGB is corresponding to X, Y, Z. So we already have particles in the 3D positions. Now we are going to use this position as a particle source input. Then we connect the second color to particle source color input. Now we can't see any effect on our background. Then we display it. It looks kind of weird because the material is constant texture by default. Now we change the material to line. Now it looks like a waterfall because we still have two little particles. Now let's change the parameters. Let's give it 3000. At the life tab, let's choose to random. Life mean 5.3. Life max 35.6. Then life variance change it to 2.41. Then we don't need to change anything more, so the least we change the particle size to 0.11, 0.36. So the second page is about the forces to the particles. We change this to 0.1, the external source. Then we add a keyboard in. because we want to reset the particle system. Then we drag and drop to the reset. We want to use our keyboard to trigger the reset button. We drag and drop it to the reset. We choose top reference. So every time we press key 1, it automatically restarts. Now let's adjust the cameras in the particle GPU. So whenever we press H, it automatically goes back to the central original position. We can use our mouse to adjust the camera angles. Now the resolution is kind of different to the original resolution, so we need to fix that. About resolution, I suggest we give it a constant in chop. Then we give it 1000 and rename it to res, which means resolution. Now we can make all the resolution the same. So we drag and drop it to the ramp. Then the same operation to the second ramp, change it to 1000. And here we change it to 32-bit flow. Now in the end, let's adjust the particle GPU's resolution in the render page. So now we can see it's not a square. So we drag and drop it to make it 1000 plus multiply 1000. So now everybody can see that we have a square. So we already adjust everything. We press 1 to restart it. Cool. So in the camera, we still need to adjust the angle and distance of it because it's a little bit far from the particles. We use mouse to make it closer to our view window. So just pay attention here, when we press 1 for restart, we can't do it when we trigger the little star on the bottom right. Right, so when we close the star, we press 1, we get a restart. Right, so it looks more or less good in here. Let's not worry about that for now. But we still want to make the kind of glass effect of the particles, so which means we need to add another layer of the original picture at the bottom. Add a select top, then we drag and drop it in the select top. Now we need to add a feedback. After the particle, then we add a level to adjust the opacity of the particles or the brightness. Then we add a comp operator to make it all together. Now we connect the node to the comp. And drag and drop the comp back to the feedback to make it a feedback loop. Great, now we've done it. We need to change the operation to add. Wow, now it's too bright. Clearly we don't want that. So we turn down the opacity a little bit. Great, so now it looks more or less. Now it looks good. So if If you want to add something more, you can add a blur, but it doesn't really affect much on the final effect. So now we've done the feedback loop. Our particles we're basically done. Now the only thing we need to do is to overlay the particles and our original pictures. So add another composite and connect it together. Change it to A-top. Then we add another null after it. Perfect, so now we have a little preview about the overlay effect. Just one thing we need to adjust, because the size of the particle source and the original picture is not really corresponding to each other, and it doesn't look very ideal. So this is the method that I think of. If you have more recommendation of how to adjust the size, please tell me. So for this time, we add an edge to make an edge out of all the particles, so it's more clear that which part is a mountain shape. Then we change the luminance to red. So now we can see all the mountain part is not coloring the white edge. So we can easily figure out which part is a mountain, and we can use that to overlay the mountain layers and make the size exactly the same. If you think the particle itself is moving and it's hard to tell which part is the mountain edge, you could turn off the eternal false for now, change it to 0. Now we can see very clear. So we can start our adjustment in the particle GPU. Let's pull the camera closer. And adjust the x-axis. And always remember, don't press reset when the star sign is still on. Okay, turn it off. Then we can turn off the edge effect, because we already got the size matched to each other. Great, now we basically realize our looking through the glass kind of effect. And if there is other parameters you want to change, you can try to change the turbulence in particle GPU. So, or if you don't really like the wiggly effect, you can just turn it off, put everything on the turbulence to 0. Then reset it. We don't have the kind of wiggly particle effects. Perfect, so without the turbulence, now all the particles, we can change the external force back to 0.1. Now when we restart it, it only has the kind of going up particle effect, and that's kind of the effect that we want. And if you think the particle is moving too fast, you can always just change the eternal force smaller, like 0.1. Okay, so that's the tutorial for today. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.